You ready, Davis? That was a. We've been rolling. Oh, you're recording the whole time. Oh,
Oh, that's what's up.
I may add that in there. Why not?
Oh, that was solid.
that,
Yeah.
that was a really.
You feel me?
I just feel like all you guys are just natural athletes. Like you pick up anything and you play it for like even like a couple
Mhm.
weeks, and
Yeah.
you're just good at it.
I
I don't know.
I started with football. Like football was my thing.
Oh, okay,
Defensive end and tight end.
that makes sense.
And I thought I was gonna be a beast at it. And then one day, just like 8th grade, I stopped. And I literally remember I was paused like in line on a drill, and I was like, do I really want to keep doing this?
Yeah,
Like putting on the helmet every day, bumping with guys.
yeah.
I sweat. I sweat is the worst part of football. Like
I sweat.
so, like when you're sweating
Yeah,
and you can't wipe it off because the helmet's so tight,
that's true. I
and
never
like
thought of that.
the sweat gets in the eye, and it just like bugs me so much.
Yeah,
And then on top of that, that's kind of when I started developing like claustrophobicness, like
because the
tight
helmet.
space, and the helmet just being so close to my head, and I didn't even have hair. I was bald. It was just like I don't know if I can take this constant aching,
Yeah.
hitting. So then I quit, and then I sound like a quitter for doing that, but I quit it to do cross country, and cross country helped me with basketball.
Really?
It helped me get my lungs straight, and I was a chubby kid at the time. That's
Yeah.
kind of why I was a defensive end. I was big
Yeah.
and a little tall, but that cross country year really changed the whole trajectory of this basketball thing
Interesting.
just by running every single day. Like for practice, we'd be like 2 miles. We're timing it.
Yeah.
And the races were 2 miles in middle school. So sometimes it'd be like 3 miles. Get your lungs right. Then I learned like, eating the right stuff for the races, like
Yeah.
pasta and greens and all this other stuff. So I'm eating all this stuff to get prepared for races and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was I good? No.
No.
I was probably one of the worst on the team.
But you're getting everything. You're getting the conditioning right.
Exactly.
So that makes sense.
And if I didn't do basketball, I always tell everybody now, like, I would have definitely picked up tennis. And am I good at tennis now? No, because I don't play tennis.
Yeah.
But
But it's something to keep you moving.
exactly. I firmly believe that if I had said, I'm going to do whatever this task is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be great at it,
Yeah.
I'm going to put all my time into being a tennis player,
Yeah.
And I honestly think, too, if I did tennis, I really could be one of the all-time greats. That's how my mind
Yeah.
thinks about it.
Yeah. And
I'm long. I can play at the net. I can play back. I can have a good, backhand. I don't know, top spin, whatever it is.
yeah.
I think I could do all that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think I can do it now, but that's just the vision.
Yeah.
You see this like when you're, I don't know, it's like a pre-development stage,
Yeah. You have to believe that you're the best at. If you want to be good, you have to believe that you're the best at it. And
Every time.
every time.
Every time.
You ready, Davis? That was a. We've been rolling. Oh, you're recording the whole time. Oh,
Oh, that's what's up.
I may add that in there. Why not?
Oh, that was solid.
that
yeah.
was a really.
You feel me?
This environment's different. Like it's not
Yeah.
like your formal interview. Like even when like LeBron sits in like a podcast environment, I'm just
Yeah.
like, dude, he's just like a dude.
That's what I'm saying. You're just sitting, you're just talking, you're just vibing. That's
Yeah.
kind of like why I like podcasts. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about starting my own, trying to get like all the equipment and stuff. Because,
This is easy. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't want to put this out there, but I just
Yeah.
learned it's 3 buttons back there.
yeah. I mean, like, you just got to think about it, though. A lot of people are invested into the lives of athletes, and they think that we're all these superstars or whatever.
Mm.
And in my mind, I think I'm a regular guy. Like, I'm like just like all you guys,
Yeah.
And it's also good for people, and I just say Ole Miss because we're here,
Mm.
like just to see what we see every day, just to talk about it,
Yeah.
hear our thoughts, what we're thinking. And then also my mind would be like also for the new guys coming in, have the new guys come on the podcast and then,
Mm.
get to know them. And then the people get to know them as well, get a little, a little backstory up on them.
Mm-hmm.
And they just continue to grow. So it's just good to, just sit back and talk and sometimes vibe.
Yeah.
So
Well, Malik, welcome to the Manning Room. I guess we'll get started. We technically started, but
Yeah.
normally I do like a little introduction, but like we were just kind of off the cuff talking.
exactly,
Here we are. I actually kind of want to build off what we were just talking about. You're just, not this. Sure, you're a basketball star.
Yeah.
Coming off the Sweet 16 season, you want to build a legacy here, all that, but you're just a normal guy walking the same sidewalks we walk, everything of that nature. What do you want people to know? Like who Malik is in the everyday life of Malik Dia, and instead of when you're in the gym.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the gym a lot. But you'll definitely like see me walking around Oxford. Like you could definitely see me, you know, on the square going to get some ice cream or going to, you know, the Grill House or Tico's, something like that. I'm always gonna be around. I'm not gonna be the type of guy like gets my groceries delivered to me. I don't want people to be out. Like I still like act like I'm regular. I don't want to be the spoiled, entitled guy who just is like, oh my gosh, you know. But nah, I'm really normal. Walk around day by day. You know, I like to go on walks on the trail, sometimes go on runs. Heavy on pickleball. Ever since I came here, I realized pickleball is a big deal. So I'm always out there playing with a couple of my teammates or whoever. Love playing the game. And I love just sitting down and talking. It's always good to have somebody to talk to, like whether that's like, you know, in the locker room or on the phone with like families and friends away, or even like podcasts like this. This is why I said, you know, thinking about doing my own. You know, it's just really good to just, you know, sit down and talk and also listen to other people's perspectives. You know, I'm really interested on learning and growing and being, you know, not so self-centered on my thoughts, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause I know there's other opinions out there and all other stuff. And that's why I'm very active with, you know, reading and, you know, learning about other people and much more. It just can't be all self-centered, you know?
Yeah. And we'll get to the Sweet 16 season and stuff and all the newcomers in the upcoming season. But I don't know, you talking about that kind of takes me back to a conversation I had with Chris Beard last year when you were the newcomer. And he said, you know, I love talking to Dia because of the perspective he has, how open-minded he is, and just the conversations. I always come away kind of feeling a little smarter after I talk to Malik. And I feel like that's got to come from somewhere, right? So I don't know if it's just the way you're wired, the way you were raised, or you came across an interview like this and you thought, wow, I'm impacted by that. I mean, where did this perspective of yours truly come from?
I think it came from my parents.
Okay.
I was raised, you know, a lot of stuff going on around the house. You know, I got 3 brothers. You know, my mom and dad both work. My dad used to have 2 jobs. So I was very curious about the stuff that was going on and around, and I'd always be the type to ask my dad, like, hey, you know, what's going on here? Or like, you know, why is he never at home? I remember I swear it was like a month period when I was at home when I lived in Georgia. And I only see my dad like in the morning. And I was like, yo, Dad, where you be at? You know? He's like, I'm out here working. And, you know, you don't realize as a like a kid, like your dad's, you know, busting his tail every day to make sure you're good. But it just always opened up that, you know, curiosity to me. And then once it like led to school, I was just always that guy who talked a lot. And, you know, the teacher was always like, oh, Malik's always talking in class, blah, blah, blah. But in my mind, you know, like, I'm not trying to cause trouble, you know? I'm just trying to be myself and, you know, talk and stuff. And, you know, it just kind of bled into my, you know, real life outside of, you know, the classroom and on the basketball court, off the basketball court. And obviously basketball is one of my passions. So it's just something I love talking about all the time. And speaking of when I was talking to Coach Beard, in the portal, it was kind of like he was so basketball oriented. It kind of shocked me. And it still does shock me today. Like, he's always doing something basketball. He's always in the office. Like, it's kind of hard because in my mind I'm competing with our head coach about being in the gym, but he's always there.
Yeah.
I could go in there every once in a while and he won't be there at night, but every time I'm there, he's always there. And it's always good, you know, when he's talking about that in recruiting, it just gives me a very big appeal of like, okay, he's very serious about this. And, you know, telling me in recruiting that we're here to make a Final Four and I want you to be a part of this team, it sounds so crazy. And, you know, when I go back and as you always do and you tell your people like, you know, Coach Beard talked to me and the main thing he was talking about was winning and going to a Final Four. It's like, yeah, you guys are Ole Miss, you know? You can't really do that. But in his mind and my mind too, since being here, it's just like, I really believe that we can do it. Like going to the Sweet 16 felt like, not saying that it was nothing, but it felt like, why not more, you know? Just gives you another drive, so.
And was really captivated by the emotion you showed after you all lost in the Sweet 16 game.
Yeah.
And you were, I love the quote you had that, a season at Belmont and Vanderbilt, like I've never felt like this, but it was because of the culture, the teammates, and Coach Beard as well too.
Yeah.
What made it different? Obviously, the run you went on made it different, right? And the final result. But it just felt like the culture that you guys truly built was something really special and something that you all have never been a part of before.
Yeah. The backstory on the crying thing. So the game's over, right?
It's okay to cry. We're not making fun of you because of that.
Yeah.
But
I just want to get
by it. It was awesome.
I want to get my part out there.
Yeah.
The crying started once we were in the locker room. So like once the game was over, we walked off. Everybody was crying when we were walking off. And I just wasn't feeling anything, Like it hurt that we lost and I felt it. But then we go to sit down in the locker room. Coach Beard comes in crying and, he's talking to us. And I look over and I see all my teammates are heads down, crying and stuff. And then it all just kind of hit me, basically, like, this is over. Like, I'll never play with any of these teammates ever again, almost all of them, because they all graduated. And I just never am going to have those relationships like the same that they were, every single day doing something with them since the summertime, the workouts, the practices, even the fights we had in practice, like those are special and you just don't, realize it until it's all over. So then in that moment, it just all started pouring down. And then unfortunately the cameras all came. And, it was kind of tough to answer those questions just because a lot was going through my mind. But going back on the culture part of the team, like, it's special, man. What we had was just unreal. Being on a team that was, senior-led, and I'm a junior, right? Coming in and thinking, I could, be a leader on this team. I kind of, fell back to the older guys, having older guys on our team that are seniors. And me being a junior was just like, I don't know, it's just seeing basketball from a different lens than when you're a freshman and you're looking at the older guys. You're an older guy learning from older guys, And obviously what we did was special, got, Ole Miss to, be known a little bit for basketball, bringing in a bunch of guys this year, understanding what the expectations were. And it's just really amazing. Like, it's life-changing. I feel like I could call any of the guys and, just chop it up with them now, text them, say what's up. I know I've been talking to Sean a lot as he goes to these workouts and stuff. And, he's been going back and forth with me about the finals because he's a Thunder's guy. And, I'm thinking, like, the Pacers are going to get it done. Break is still around a lot. Matt's rehabbing, getting right and, getting ready for, his next big jump. Dre, all those guys. I don't want to leave nobody out, but we just all built a very special bond. And I can't speak for the other guys and say that they've had this, at other schools or previous years, but I know for me that was really big for me,
And I find it interesting too, because back in the day, I say back in the day like I'm 50, but I would talk to juniors and seniors about, hey, you're the veteran of this team. Now you're the captain. Who'd you learn from here and things like that. Yeah. Here you are in year 2 at Ole Miss, and all of a sudden it feels like you're that fifth-year guy that's been here forever, kind of thing, right? But it's you put it in perspective. You're only in year 2, and you're with a bunch of guys around you who are new. And obviously you have Eduardo and a couple other guys too that are back that didn't see time, but you and Klafke saw the most time. Yeah. Is that weird to you that you're in year 2 and you're like the go-to guy for restaurants and grocery stores and like what Coach Beard expects and things like that?
Yeah, I was telling Klafke too. I was like, the first day of practice, I said, dog.
He's a sophomore too.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, Juju's not here no more, And it's just, kind of shocking, but it's kind of the way it is. Last March, April, whenever the season's over, Coach Beard brought me in his office, basically said it's time to, raise the level, coming back as a returner. And, there's just another level that I had to take it with maturity and, learning from, the seniors and the guys from last year. So basically, I'm a work in progress, but I'm just trying to, stack days every single day and just try and be a good leader for these guys and understand them what it takes to, you know, win at the level that we do. And not only that, you know, keep going. You know, I learned a lot from those guys, and no doubt about it. But I can also write my own leadership story if that's the case, and, you know, take us even farther. God bless willing. So, you know, every day I'm just trying to learn more and more. Every day, you know, I'm learning from the coaches, seeing, you know, what's good, what's not good, trying to communicate with the guys, get real close with them. You know, I feel like last year, as close as we were, we still had an older group. So a lot of guys had their own individual lives. And we still give, you know, respect to their time and all this stuff. But this year I also do want to, you know, try and get a little more team, you know, oriented stuff so we can all just, you know, bond and grow close. I feel like the teams who are very much closer off the court always gel well on the court. And, you know, it kind of helps those harder conversations. Like if we're in a game and a guy misses a block out, you can get on his tail and be like, yo, I need you to block out, bro. Mm-hmm. And he understands it's coming from a good place, you know? So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Like I told you, I'm just trying to write my own story.
Yeah. You said something I kind of want to go back to give yourself grace as a leader too. How do you find that balance, right, between holding yourself accountable, holding other people accountable, and giving yourself grace to know, like, hey, this is really my first time truly being a leader of a team. Like I know I'm going to make mistakes too, and I got to learn from that as well. Right.
Being so-called leader, you kind of have to raise your own expectations because you don't want to set a bad example for other guys. That's kind of how I think about it. You always want to make sure that you're perfect in every rep. Yeah. Anytime a coach gets on you, you want to, you know, eye contact, say, yes, sir, understand the message, keep it going and respond. You don't want to be a guy who like sulks because a coach gets on to him. And then that feeds off to, you know, a younger guy, and he sees like, oh, if Malik does it, you know, I can do it. That's not how it works. So each and every day, just, you know, like I said, I'm talking to the coaches, trying to see, you know, what I can improve on, if I'm doing a good job, such and such. I also fall back a lot on my senior year in high school, which is, you know, it's totally different levels. But I remember when I was a sophomore and I transferred to Ensworth, I played with Chaz Lanier, who was on, you know, Tennessee this past year. And he was our leader that year, basically, you know, leading scorer, all that stuff. And I learned a lot from him just by how he carried himself. I don't really tell a lot of people that. Probably Chaz doesn't even know that. But the way he carried himself, you know, being the guy and, you know, talking to guys, very calm guy. And, you know, he just always made sure to get the point across because all he cared about was winning at Ensworth. So going into my senior year, I kind of rely off that and just, you know, working with a bunch of younger guys. I had like 2 other seniors with me. So just working with a bunch of younger guys and understanding, you know, even if they don't decide to play college basketball, they were all here to win. And, you know, figuring out how to do that with a group of guys changes every year. Yeah. But you can definitely take, you know, parts of that and put it into now 4 years later.
I feel like I could talk leadership with you all day, but I don't want to keep you here all day. I know you've got things to do. I do want to go back to last season really quick because I want to know when the turning point for you all was, because you guys really started playing your best basketball at the tail end of the year. I mean, the SEC tournament, you guys look great. NCAA tournament, you look great. Yeah. But what was it for you all that you really thought, hey, we're peaking now?
Yeah. Non-conference was good for us. We had some ups and downs, you know, with the level of competition. Started off well in the SEC, 4-0, beat Alabama on the road, top 5. Got on a little slump, you know, in between there. Kind of had like some communication issues on, you know, what we were doing in games and stuff like that. I feel like personally was our problem. And then it kind of just got a little, you know, up and down. But the turning point was 2 days or a day before the Tennessee game.
Okay.
We're in practice. A lot of people don't know this. We're in practice and, you know, we're going at it. We're competing 2 days before. So, you know, we're getting prepared for Tennessee. And our 2 leaders, Matt and Brake, get into it. Like, you know, they're going back and forth about something that we're working on. And, you know, they've both been here for a long time, and they're both trying to do something special. So they're going back and forth, and it got into, you know, a little verbal altercation. And I think that was the changing point in our season. And even Coach Beard says it. Like, if we win this game, it's because of that right there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, both of those guys played with extremely insane passion for the game. And that Tennessee game really, I guess, turned the switch for our team. Seeing both of them, how much they wanted it so badly because this is their last year at Ole Miss, kind of flipped our aggression and our will to win.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up being Tennessee, top 5, and that just carried on into the tournament. I feel like we just continued to have that hunger. And I even remember before, it was either around the 64 game or before we were going to the Sweet 16. Me and Dre also got into it one time at practice, and we were going back and forth. And, you think it's tournament time. We're not, doing a lot of stuff, but we're still going at it. And those moments are like the ones that I'll never forget just because it built so much for that team. And I feel like it was just insane competitiveness and the will to win. But as soon as we stepped off the court, we knew that, it was all good. It was all love. So
kind of makes you want to be a fly on the wall.
I know, right?
Like just the curiosity of what was.
Right.
I don't need to know what was said or anything, but I don't know. Just because for something like that to completely just spark what you all did was truly something. So, was there ever a tough conversation that you had maybe with a coach or a player that you're okay sharing with us that really made you look at who you are as a player or your role on that year made you think maybe a little differently?
Yeah. The one conversation that stands out to me would be the one me and Coach Beard had after one of our non-conference games. I can't remember. But beginning in non-conference, basically all non-conference, played about like 15, 18 minutes a game. Supposed to come in and be, this high-level guy. And I kind of wasn't. I wasn't the same person I was, still trying to figure my way out. A lot of questions about the system and the offense. And Coach Beard sat me down one day, said, Malik, you're on NIL. You're a starter on an SEC basketball team. You have all the resources and, weapons to help you be good. That I feel like you're not taking advantage of it. I feel like you walk around, you're sorry for yourself because of, the minutes that you play and you're always making excuses and all this stuff. And he said, stop playing the victim. And I kind of thought about it. I was like, how am I playing the victim? But realistically, every single day, when you think about it, I was like, am I giving my all? Am I, smiling? Am I, encouraging a teammate? Am I going hard every rep? The biggest thing for me was being grateful. Like I had all this stuff. Like, a lot of people would die to be in my position. And I really wasn't taking each day as a blessing that it was. I was taking it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I'd wake up, be like, work out, practice, blah, 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 same thing, whatever. But now I look at it from a completely different lens since then. He told me, be thankful. Every single day that I'm, wake up, a lot of people are, sick or whatever, or going through something. And, you wake up every single day and you have the opportunity to play basketball at Ole Miss in an SEC school, under a good coach, great teammates. I don't on NIL, nothing struggling. I don't have to really worry about much except get good grades, play basketball, and, maintain an image. So I just really look at it like that. Every single morning I wake up, I pray, and I tell God, thank you, for waking me up. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you for the, everything that he's given me. I go about my day. I see my teammates. I smile. I try not to have no bad attitude with nobody. You just always treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And that goes back to like elementary school, but like it really still sticks with me just because you don't want people treating you bad, So why not, just keep that same positive energy going each and every day over and over. And after that, the basketball is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Just being, yourself every single day, being grateful, enjoying practice. You're just going to get better each and every day. And I feel like that's kind of when the season flipped for me,
We've talked a lot about Coach Beard, but you spend more time with him probably than anybody. I mean, if who's the Chris Beard that we don't get to see?
Chris Beard is probably the same guy on and off the court.
Really?
Just from a competitive nature. Like, if we weren't doing basketball and, the pickleball tournament or something like that, he's insanely still competitive. Very funny guy though.
I was gonna say there's got to be a goofy side to him.
Yeah, he's always telling jokes and stuff like, off the court when we're not, basketball. And, he has a lot. He has a life. He has, daughters that come around. We always say hi to them. And, he's always smiling, outside of basketball, when it's like time to, step away from the game. He's always got a good smile, good heart, always talking to the people, the fans and stuff like that. Very engaged in our community. And he always talks about how Oxford's just like the best college town there is. But he's a really good dude. On the court, I understand, the type of, attitude and perception that he has, but he's trying to win. And, winning means a lot. Like, I've never seen something like it. It means a lot to him.
It has to. If you're a Division I head coach, winning has to mean a lot to you.
Yeah, but it's different with him.
Okay.
Like, I didn't have that with my two other head coaches. Winning was, important, obviously, but to him, it's just a completely another level. Like, he has the ultimate competitive. I think that's what he tries to install in us, his players, to have the same level of competitiveness, and he raises our own expectations for ourselves. So trying to win each and every day and have that kind of same mindset, you kind of want to take on the personality of the head coach, which John Riley says all the time.
That's probably why he was brought here too, because he's got the same mentality that the head coach does.
John Riley might be worse than Beard.
In what way?
It's like he'll never do anything competitive basketball. Every once in a while, like we went on the road and we played one-on-one. He played, TP, and that was ultra competitive. That's the one couple of times I've seen him play basketball, and he won. But like he'll try and play you in anything but basketball, like Connect Four, pickleball, like anything. Like if we're just running back to the locker room, or like when we be running back to the bus, he'd be like, I'm first. So then I'm like, are you serious? So then we're over here in a full-blown race to the bus to see who gets there first. So it's just stuff like that. He takes it to another level. The only other time I've actually seen him do basketball is I'm finishing my free throws, because I was a really bad free throw shooter last year. So I'm trying to, I'm shooting free throws towards the end of the season last year. And he tells me I make 10 in a row. So I make, 10 in a row for however long it takes. And then he's like, okay, let's play free throw golf. So then I just made 10 in a row, mind you. And free throw golf is basically like, I can't even remember if we were doing, if you make one, it's +1. If you miss it, it's -2, whatever. But we were doing something like that, and I beat him. And then he was like, okay, run it back. Mind you, I'm like, workout's done. I've shot my free throws. I'm trying to get. He's like, run it back. I said, okay. So then he beats me. So I'm like, okay, it's 1-1. So then we play again. I beat him. And then he's like, okay, let's keep playing. So then he beats me, and he keeps going until like he has a up one on me. And finally he did. But then I was like, no, we're going to keep playing. So it just went back and forth and back and forth. But
so it was a 3-game series became 5, 5-game series became 7.
I couldn't even tell you how many games we played.
That's insane.
It's insane.
Is there anything you guys don't compete in?
Nah.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, I knew what the answer was going to be.
Nah.
What's the strangest thing other than racing back to the bus that you guys have competed in? Doesn't have to be just John. It could be last year as a team. It could be this year as a team. Anything.
That's a tough one.
Because I feel like, I mean, even last year, you guys were up in Memphis singing karaoke, and I felt like, even looking back at that footage, that was still a competition.
Yeah.
Coach Beard's also singing, like, Party in the USA, and, like,
yeah.
You got, I don't know. I even feel like that's a little bit of a competition, too.
I don't know what the craziest one would be, but the most competitive one, like, to mind right now, would definitely be when we were in Memphis and that pool game. So it was like a pool tournament, and then, the championship game, Riley's in it, and I forget who he's playing. I'm blanking, but he's playing somebody on the team. And, the guy hits a good shot. Riley's probably going to have his own story, but guy hits a good shot, whatever. And Riley says his shot doesn't count because of the time. Like, there's a certain amount of, like, time that you have to shoot the ball in. And Riley says, no, you didn't get the shot off. So then he starts moving the balls around. And then he ends up winning. And
Is that a legit thing?
Yeah, no, that's legit. And everybody on the team's like, yo, what's going on? Like, Riley's cheating, blah, blah, blah. We have Coach Beard come over there, and they try to, like, reset it. I can't remember if they played the game again or not, but he ended up winning off some crazy BS. But personally, that was the most, because everybody was just like, dog, what's going on? We kind of figured out, like, Riley's going to do whatever it takes to win, whether that's cheating. I'm not saying he's a cheater. And if he watches this, I'm not saying you are, but definitely was just, he takes it to another level, dog. He raises everybody's competitive level.
You got to have a guy like that, though, in the program, I feel like.
You do.
So, okay, one more question. I'll get you out of here because I know you obviously came back, right? I mean, did you have a decision to make in the offseason about going to the next level and coming back? And what was the ultimate factor in you coming back to Ole Miss?
Yeah, I definitely had a decision to make. It was a tough one. I was thinking about, if I can go play, in the NBA right now and, where I could be placed and, all the other stuff. Or coming back and, rewriting my own legacy here and building upon it, and expanding my game, expanding my stock to, go higher than what I think I'd be projected now. So talking to a lot of people, just figuring out, what I thought was the best thing for me. And I thought that coming back to Ole Miss was, the best option, just because, you have Coach Beard. I know I'm going to get in great shape with Coach Riley. It's my biggest will to do this year, change my body. Amazing teammates that I know I was going to get. I feel like, off the year that we had, just getting those teammates was going to be a lot easier than, if we didn't make the tournament out of the portal, just because, of Coach Beard and his history, and then, what we just did at Ole Miss, and just, telling the guys that, like, Ole Miss is a spot. So having a good team around me was just amazing. And then, prayer. Prayer was really a big thing, just talking to the Lord, just figuring out what I should do, if I should stay, if I should go. And ultimately that led back to me here. And, I couldn't be more excited for, this year coming up. The SEC schedule just dropped. So I'm looking forward to each and every game on the schedule, and just building with this team. I really think that, this team has a lot of potential to go to the Final Four. And not only that, when we get to the Final Four, just work our way from there. So super excited. And then on top of that, just being in Oxford is just amazing. And I don't think I could, just stop. But, eventually the time's going to stop. But super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Malik, man, I appreciate you.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.